저는 거품이 엄청나게 껴 있다고 봐요. 대출받아 산 분들은 금리가 오르면 위험하지만 현금으로 산 분들은 아무 영향이 없잖아요. 그래서 상당히 돈이 많은 상류 몇 퍼센트의 분들의 그건 놀이터예요. 그거는 콘크리트 덩어리가 20억, 30억, 50억, 60억 이렇게 된다는 거는 가치 측면에서는 있을 수가 없는 거예요. 엄청난 거품이 끼어 있는 거예요.
네. South Korea's economy is over. Hello everyone. I'm a man who was born in South Korea, and I watched some YouTube videos that explain like South Korea is over and why. By the way, I want to claim that South Korea's economy is going to end first among all South Korea's national functions. But before I tell you one of South Korea's irreversible economic disasters, I like to say data and information in this video may be not completely accurate. So, I also hope you don't firmly believe this video after watching it. I didn't mean to make this video in order to curse South Korea. I sometimes listen to K-pop and I like playing games made in South Korea. Anyway, first of all, many people may wonder how South Korea started to develop the economy. At first, South Korea's economy was devastated after the Korean War. South Korea didn't unify North Korea during the Korean War because a lot of Chinese soldiers joined the war. A lot of South Koreans were killed by North Korean and Chinese soldiers, and many buildings in South Korea were ravaged during the war. However, a hero president who appeared in 1962 started to develop the devastated economy of South Korea. The leader was Park Chung-hee. Undeniably, despite ruling as a dictator, he kickstarted South Korea's rapid economic development. During the Vietnam War, the President Park Chung-hee dispatched South Korean troops into Vietnam in order to make funds for the economy of South Korea. The Park Chung-hee government received $30 million from Japan as a compensation of Japan's South Korean colonization and started offshore diplomacy with Japan as the first diplomatic relationship. Also, there are his economic features like establishment of Pohang Iron Steel and establishment of highway which spans from Seoul to Busan. However, it seems that South Korea's economy has got stranger and stranger since the 2000s. On the surface, GDP and GDP per capita of South Korea have continued to rise since the 2000s. However, most of this growth may be illusory, fueled by the world's biggest real estate bubble. What is a real estate bubble? A real estate bubble is a rapid and unsustainable rise in real estate values, driven by speculation, easy credit, and high demand, rather than economic fundamentals, and it means that inordinately rising house prices concentrates its economy. The number of house consumers dipped notably due to the too expensive house prices, and the bubble collapses finally. It is possible to take the example of 1990s Japan and 2000 USA, which are the top two economies at the moment. In 1991, Japan became the first country that experienced real estate bubble collapse after Japan's bubble economy from 1985 to 1991. After the aftermath, Japan experienced a loss of 30 years, an economic depression which lasted for about 30 years. In the case of USA, the US real estate bubble started growing in 2001, and it started collapsing since 2006, which led to subprime mortgage crisis and the 2008 global financial crisis. At the moment, American share markets are roughly half after the 2008 global financial crisis. Also, people should remember that Japan and USA are the top two economies and have the best economic conditions at the moment. In this regard, Japan and USA are the top two economies and have the best economic conditions while having a growing real estate bubble. A real estate bubble is bound to collapse one day. It shouldn't be inflated massively. Historically, even 1990s Japan and 2000 USA could maintain their own real estate bubble, and both got bad economic results. By the way, even though South Korea has mostly weaker economic conditions than Japan's in 1991 and USA's in 2006, in terms of domestic demand, fertility rate, whether or not a specific country has own global reserve currency, GDP per capita, foreign exchange reserves, OECD youth employment rate among 15 to 24 years old. The South Korea's real estate bubble is much more amazing than Japan's in 1991 and USA's in 2006. For example, even excluding current Jeonse loan on South Korea, the South Korea's household debt per GDP is about 90%, which is the top 6 in the world, bigger than about 70% in 1991 Japan, and similar to about 98% in 2006 USA. And about 70% of the South Korea's total household asset is real estate, which is far more massive than about 50% in 1991 Japan and about 40% in 2006 USA. And it can be argued how it could be so extreme like that. Basically, it appears that most of South Korean politicians didn't mean to collapse the massive real estate bubble before it extremely grew like that, and rather, they just invested their houses into the growing real estate bubble. Anyway, as I've mentioned, a real estate bubble is bound to collapse one day, and it shouldn't be inflated massively. However, sadly, it seems that none of South Korean politicians have will to collapse the world's biggest real estate bubble, and they are just focusing on defending it. To make the matter worse, as I've mentioned, South Korea mostly has weaker economic conditions than Japan's in 1991 and USA's in 2006 in terms of domestic demand, fertility rate, whether or not a specific country has own global reserve currency, GDP per capita, foreign exchange reserves, OECD youth employment rate among 15 to 24 year olds. What is your opinion? Do you think South Korea's economy will keep prospering in the far future? I didn't mean to make this video in order to curse South Korea. I sometimes listen to K-pop and I like playing games made in South Korea. I'm not also completely sure on the data and information I've mentioned, so how about not firmly believing this video and making attention on the South Korea's economy?